Meadowbrook is a K-8 independent school outside of Boston. We're about 300 students, and it's a special school where students are really loved and valued, and they're given tons of experiences and opportunities to prepare them to be leaders in the future.
Maybe it was like 5 or 6 years ago, we had some of our faculty and administration go to Nueva and go to their design thinking workshop, and their imaginations were really captured by this idea of a shared interdisciplinary common language. And they brought it back and proposed that we as a school roll out using this language and this problem-solving structure, putting our own stamp on it, changing some of the language so that it was appropriate for a K-8 educational organization rather than industrial designers. And we've been using it ever since. It's not been a perfect rollout, but the way that we're thinking about it is a way to de-silo grades, de-silo the different disciplines so that students feel that they're creatively problem solving across years, across subject areas.
Design thinking is a powerful tool because it teaches the students agency. It gives them the ability to solve real world problems. We can teach them the content, but if we don't give them time to practice solving problems, they won't look at themselves as problem solvers.
The reason why I think design thinking is so great is that it always challenges the mindset, so that you're always looking at a variety of perspectives. And that makes you better, and that makes your product or it makes your curriculum better. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of doing. It's a way of encouraging collaboration. It's a way of encouraging growth in your culture. It's a way of encouraging a variety of perspectives.
At the heart of design thinking is a set of language and these mindsets, but sometimes that can sound like jargon and lingo to folks who don't understand what it is you're talking about. So that's why I think it's so important to develop the language that you decide to use as a community, and then to really build that buy-in and the understanding of why you're deciding to use these.
I mean, the stages for a design thinking project are going to vary teacher to teacher, grade to grade level, but the shared common language that we use would start a project at the understand phase. That would be where students are diving into what the background content is that's going to be involved in their project, and also importantly understanding who their user is, doing interviews of that user, figuring out what the user's needs and need statement are. After that, they would define whatever their problem is. Define the needs for that person. What is it that this person needs and why do they have that need? And also, what is it really that we're trying to solve? Then they would imagine what all the possible solutions are. So this imagine stage, hopefully across disciplines, is going to involve a lot of visual thinking and brainstorming skills, wild ideas, crazy ideas, boring ideas. They'll put them all out there on the wall, and then some amalgam of the crazy and the mundane will come together. And then they'll move into the prototype phase where they will build something, hopefully very rapidly, quickly test it, discover that it's probably terrible, but has some nugget of a really good piece of information in there. And then they'll test it again with the user or in sort of a peer critique, iterating again and again. So the sort of prototype try phases, which are the last two phases, go hand in hand. Assessment of design thinking is a question I get a lot from a lot of people, and I actually don't think that it is such a challenge to assess design thinking. I'm at a school that's super rigorous, and we send our kids off to a lot of competitive high schools, and there's an expectation of actual letter grades and kind of a lot of graded checkpoints. And what I end up doing is being really clear with myself about what the unit skills and content look like for that unit, for that design thinking unit, just like I would for any unit that they're working in. I'm really clear with them in terms of when they're learning that skill or that content and what deploying that content or skill is going to look like, and I'll quiz them on it pretty frequently.
The assessment for us is never that final product because we never have enough time and or the means to create a final product that is something stellar and stunning, and it's not the point. The point is to let them practice the process. The other piece that I love about design thinking and why I think it's powerful is that it's not tied to any one curricular area. So a science teacher can teach a scientific method, but a math teacher is never going to use that. A history teacher's never going to use that. But a science teacher can teach design thinking, and the history teacher can tap into exactly the same vocabulary and use it in their classroom as well. So as the kids get older, they can see it from lots of different teachers, and they can use the same language, and they can see the commonality between the different classrooms that they go to throughout the day, and see how these different curricular areas actually relate to each other.
But then we want students to kind of sometimes naturally discover that, oh, this project we did, it was design thinking. We just didn't call it that. So that's our kind of hope that that design thinking will live throughout the school. It's not just a diagram or some language that you use, but it's really how you approach a problem and what are your inclinations as you're faced with a problem.
As a teacher thinking about using design thinking, you have to think about how much content do the students need in order to actually solve a problem. Lesson plans often are very content heavy in our school, traditionally, and teachers are often trying to teach a lot of content. In order to make room for the students to take some ownership of their learning and solve a problem, you have to let the students drive some of the content learning as well. So I think it's a careful balance of making sure that students are finding problems that they can solve, that they have the means to solve with the content that they already know.
I think almost everything we do is about design thinking. And in fact, one of the things I've learned is that once we got teachers involved in it, they said, I'm already doing that. And then, of course, that becomes a wall. I'm already doing that. Yes, now let's do more of it, or let's do more of it in collaboration with other people.
But it also exists in kind of the spirit of faculty and teachers. We want them to have this creative initiative to try something on and to not be afraid if it doesn't go well the first time. The celebration of failure, that idea, the growth mindset idea, kind of living throughout the school. So it's really important for our students to see adults who are comfortable with sticky situations and failure and that growth mindset as well. We want our students to be excited when they get a new problem that looks tricky rather than shy away. And we hope that those spirit, that mindset that we build in them will help them be ready to jump in.